Hey everyone, I'm Megyn Kelly. Welcome to the Megyn Kelly Show. You're not going to believe it. I mean, you are totally going to believe this. Can I just show you something? Let's just do it this way. Can we play Natalie Portman? Natalie Portman is super upset. I'm going to show you some breaking news about the man she's crying over. But here's Natalie Portman.
What's going on in our country right now is absolutely horrific with what the federal government, Trump's government, Kristi Noem, ICE, what they're doing is really the worst of humanity. And then we also have the best of humanity for the way people are showing up for each other in community and Americans coming out to support each other and protect each other and fight against injustice. So I could not be prouder to be American right now by the way the Americans are acting. And I could not be sadder to be American right now with the way the government is behaving.
Sorry, I'm getting a little emotional because it's really been, it's such a horrible day. It's been a horrible week. And it's very joyful to be at a film festival and in a creative community celebrating film together. But what is happening in our country is just obscene, and what Trump and Kristi Noem and ICE are doing to our citizens is, and to undocumented people is outrageous and needs to end.
Okay. No one gives a shit about Natalie Portman's political opinion, but she's representative of these far left loons, the Karen Intifada that we've been watching in Minneapolis. And that was after we learned about the death of Alex Pretti on Saturday. She managed to gin up some tears. She's an actress, so yeah. Over this guy, because he was just like this poor innocent guy. And the left won't even really, they're not even loving the term protester for him. It's like they're basically calling him like a good Samaritan, just directing traffic. He was interfering with a federal law enforcement operation. He was not directing traffic like, hey, watch out for the federal officers. He was like, yeah, right this way if you want to block ICE. He was obviously an agitator, an anti-ICE agitator. That's been really clear. We, of course, have reported that here at the MK Show and on AM Update. And now we get this report from CNN. It just hit right before we came to air. And it is the headline from CNN in a piece by Jeff Winter and Priscilla Alvarez is Alex Pretti broke rib in confrontation with federal agents a week before death, sources say. I'll give you the highlights now, and then we're bringing on Ruthless to react. Federal immigration officials or officers have been collecting personal information about protesters and agitators in Minneapolis, sources told CNN, and had documented details about Alex Pretti before he was shot to death on Saturday. It is unclear how Pretti first came to the attention of federal authorities, but sources told CNN that about a week before his death, he suffered a broken rib when a group of federal officers tackled him while he was protesting their attempt to detain other individuals. The earlier incident started when Pretti stopped his car after observing ICE agents chasing what he described as a family on foot and began shouting and blowing his whistle, according to a source who asked not to be named out of fear of retribution. Pretti later told the source that 5 agents tackled him and one leaned on his back, an encounter that left him with a broken rib. The agents quickly released him at the scene. That day, he thought he was going to die, said the source. Pretti was later given medication consistent with treating a broken rib, according to the records reviewed by CNN. So they have confirmed that he was in some sort of an altercation with ICE, leaving him with his broken rib. The form titled Intel Collection Non-Arrests allows agents to fill in personal information of agitators and protesters who they encounter. Pretti's name was known to federal agents. Got it? His name was known to the federal agents. That's how active he had been, according to a source, though it's unclear whether the new intake form was used to share his information. It's also not clear whether the federal agents who encountered him on Saturday recognized him before they confronted him. If they did, it would be highly relevant, of course, but it's not necessary. What this is confirmation that this guy was out there looking for a fight. He had already interfered with ICE conducting its lawful operations out there in trying, as it sounds here, to abduct, to arrest a family that was fleeing, obviously with probable cause to believe that they were illegal. That's fine. That's their job. That's what Barack Obama did too. And he thought it was his business to interfere, to inject himself in that situation, and found himself on the wrong end of ICE operators. And did that give him one modicum of hesitation to do it again? Do you think now, with a broken bone and having been roughed up by officers, as you or I would be if we had done what Alex Pretti had done that first time, he learned anything? Did he understand that when you interfere in a lawful ICE operation or Border Patrol operation, you are placing yourself in physical danger? Broken bones and worse can happen to you. Of course he did. Of course he did. We knew that yesterday. We knew that Sunday. We knew that Saturday. We didn't need this report to confirm it, but it does. It's not going to change a thing about how the far left reacts to this. Maybe they'll count it as another brutalization by the evil ICE. No, that's not what this proves. It proves this guy was an agitator, and he was part of the terror crew that felt they could insert themselves in between a cop and his target, which is putting your life on the line 10 times out of 10. No sane person thinks they can do that without risking their life. No one. Especially not in Minneapolis, where these guys are being terrorized, the ICE agents and the Border Patrol agents. He knew it was assumption of the risk. That's a legal defense when you get charged with, say, negligence not charged, but accused of negligence in a civil tort claim, right? When somebody's trying to seek money from you. Don't come onto my property. It's super icy today. Snow is everywhere. I can't ensure your safety. I see the snow. I see the ice. I'm going to come anyway. I have special boots. I'll be fine. Slip, fall, lawsuit for negligence in maintaining the property in an unsafe way. Defense, you assume the risk. It was disclosed. You knew about it. You came anyway. The defendant wins that case. But it is a concept in the law that relieves a defendant of a legal burden. And it applies, in theory, in a criminal case, too. I mean, it's basically a self-defense case. But my point is simply, this guy knew very well, what was going to happen to him if he, yet again, injected himself in the middle of a Border Patrol enforcement operation. But he did it anyway. I'm not shocked. You're not shocked. We don't give a shit what Natalie Portman thinks or doesn't think about this. I'm just showing you her fake fucking tears. I mean, like, where were her tears for Lake and Riley? I don't remember her tearful video over Jocelyn Nungare down in Texas. Did you cry for her? You rich bitch who's protected by guards and fences and multi-million-dollar estates from having to deal with anything like what these Border Patrol agents are going through, or these ICE agents are going through in order to protect people who don't have your money and means and resources. Tell it to Jocelyn's mother as you cry while these guys are trying to deport molesters of children. You fucking idiot, know-nothing Hollywood starlet. Honestly, it's infuriating to watch them. It's not just her. Here's Jimmy Kimmel. All right, let's look at Jimmy Kimmel. Every single word I just said about Portman applies to this loser too. Watch.
And to the people of Minneapolis, to the Pretti family and the Good family, and these people who were looking out for their neighbors, we want you to know that we are with you and you are not alone.
Cried. He cried. Where were his tears for Elizabeth Medina, a young teenager who lived in Texas and Houston when an illegal went into her home, possibly to burglarize it, saw her and brutalized her to death? Her mother found her dead in the bathtub when she didn't show up to a parade later that day. Here she is in her cheerleading uniform. Do you remember Natalie Portman crying for Elizabeth? I don't remember. By the way, the guy pleaded guilty to her murder and could still potentially get out on parole in 30 years, and he's a young man. I don't remember Jimmy Kimmel shedding tears over Lisbeth. Jimmy, why don't we care about her? Why do we only care about illegals who are getting arrested by ICE and Border Patrol and the agitators who try to keep them there, who try to keep them free so they can have access to Lisbeth and Jocelyn and Laken? Save your acting for someone who cares. Save your fake tears, which in Jimmy Kimmel's case are always about himself. All he really has to do is gin up the moment when he almost got canceled. Oh my God, he wasn't going to be in front of the Klieg lights again. He was going to be reduced to podcasting. What's it all? And he can cry like that. It's easy for him. It's easy for Natalie Portman, okay? She grew up a child actress. God only knows what that did to her. I mean, seriously, what kind of a sane parent puts their child into child acting in this environment? But that's what was done to her. So maybe it's probably easy for her to gin up the tears too. You would have thought that if it was so easy, she would have spared one for Jocelyn or one for Lisbeth. Just one, just what would that video look like? Do you think you could spare time at the Cannes Film Festival for the young teenage girls murdered in their homes? Or Jocelyn sexually assaulted and thrown over a bridge? Do you have even just a welling of the eyes for her, Natalie? No. It's all fucking performative. That won't get them likes, you see. They're not going to get snaps at Cannes for that. They're only going to get it for dumping on law enforcement. It could be a cop. It could be a Fed. It could be a National Guardsman. It could be an ICE agent. It could be a Border Patrol agent. They don't care. They don't care. Just try to look like you hate Trump, and it's a win. Okay? That's your main goal as a Hollywood actress. It's disgusting. And now we know you're shedding tears over a man who knew full well the danger he was assuming when he injected himself into an ICE operation, a Border Patrol operation with which he had no business. None whatsoever. Okay, let's get to our guests. Joining me now, the guys from the great hit program, Ruthless. They are better known as Josh Holmes, Michael Duncan, John Ashbrook, and Comfortably Smug, the fellas. Don't miss a moment. Subscribe to this show on YouTube and follow me on Insta, Facebook, and X. If you are looking to make smarter choices for your health this year, consider Riverbend Ranch. Their steaks are not only delicious, they also contain real high-quality protein that helps fuel your body. Beef is a complete protein and contains all 9 essential amino acids your body needs to function. It also keeps you fuller for longer, reducing cravings and snacking. But here's the key. Not all beef is created equal. The quality of the beef depends entirely on how it's raised and where it comes from. That's where Riverbend Ranch stands apart. For more than 35 years, Riverbend Ranch has been building an elite Black Angus herd, carefully selecting cattle for exceptional flavor and tenderness. All Riverbend Ranch cattle are born and raised right here in the USA. They never use growth hormones or antibiotics, and the beef is processed at the ranch in their award-winning USDA-inspected facility. No shortcuts, no middlemen, just incredible, healthy, and flavorful beef shipped directly to your home. Order today at riverbendranch.com and use the promo code Megyn, M-E-G-Y-N, for $20 off your first order. Guys, welcome back. Unbelievable. Thoughts?
Unbelievable. Look, I think your summary was very, very well said. Today's left, there is no right and wrong. It's performative, and it requires a permission slip for what is right and what is wrong from political leaders. I think this is why one of my great takeaways from what's happening in Minnesota is the permission slip that was granted by the governor, Tim Walz, to the left when he said, we're at war with the federal government, from the mayor who said, get the F out, ICE. And what that did for not only the furthest reaches of the far left in Minnesota, but the activists nationwide that are funded by God knows, I mean, I think we do know who, but is it provided a permission slip for them to go in and erase what is right and what is wrong and just simply try to oppose law enforcement, which, as we know, doesn't end well, and you summarized pretty aptly. I think my bigger issue here is, like you mentioned, this Alex cat. He is a guy who is a far left activist, clearly somebody who wants to cause a lot of trouble one way or another for ideologies that he doesn't agree with. But he also has a governor who told him it's okay. It's okay to put yourself in that position because the state of Minnesota has your back. And when you do something like that, there's a profound vacuum of leadership that allows for these sorts of things to happen. That's where this thing is gotten entirely off the rails, because if you look at this from 8 years ago, Barack Obama deported far more people than Donald Trump has even conceived of deporting at this point. And there wasn't a peep out of any of these people. We didn't hear anything about the trouble we had in communities. In fact, we heard the opposite when Donald Trump literally just continued the same policies that Barack Obama had, and all of a sudden it was kids in cages and family deportation.
This was making the rounds this morning online on X, and it's Barack Obama in 2010. Let's listen, and then I'll give it back to you.
There are those in the immigrants' rights community who have argued passionately that we should simply provide those who are illegally with legal status, or at least ignore the laws on the books and put an end to deportation until we have better laws. And often this argument is framed in moral terms. Why should we punish people who are just trying to earn a living? But I believe such an indiscriminate approach would be both unwise and unfair. It would suggest to those thinking about coming here illegally that there will be no repercussions for such a decision. And this could lead to a surge in more illegal immigration. And it would also ignore the millions of people around the world who are waiting in line to come here legally. Ultimately, our nation, like all nations, has the right and obligation to control its borders and set laws for residency and citizenship. And no matter how decent they are, no matter their reasons, the 11 million who broke these laws should be held accountable.
Yeah, I mean, that...
Unbelievable. I mean, it's right on. It's in full support, you would think, of Homan and Noam and Bovino and all these guys out there trying to clean up our streets.
Yeah, I mean, that guy wouldn't have a prayer of winning a Democratic primary with that point of view today. Right?
Well, he'd be considered a right-wing Nazi at this point. I think the difference between then and now, he framed it as morals, right? Like it's, moral to allow these people to stay here. I don't think the left really even puts it into moral terms now. It's just straight nihilism, right? It's that laws don't apply, and the foundation of which is no one is illegal on stolen land. And if that is the permission structure you're operating under,
there are no laws.
There are no laws. You can do whatever you want. You can obstruct justice. You can get in the way and riot around law enforcement, because any of that is justified if that's your precondition.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I would say one thing that's very interesting about that is that was in 2010. That was when the Dems still had faith that there would be this Obama coalition of how they could establish a permanent majority in America just because the Dems were so popular and Obama so charismatic. I think starting in 2012, they changed their tune. They were like, I don't think we have a permanent voting bloc in place. And that's when you started to see more of this leaning into dreamers. And we have to find a path to citizenship, a path to voters is what they essentially want. Is we have seen what's happening in Minnesota where Democrats have realized there's a lot of money to be made and votes to be had if we just find these certain groups of people to pay off and let them run amok. And that's what the Democrat Party has become essentially, is they're happy to import voters that they can pay for who are reliable, as opposed to having to deal with losing to Donald Trump, not only the Electoral College, but the popular vote.
Yeah, what Smug is saying is exactly right. And we actually interviewed Tom Homan last week on the Ruthless Podcast, and we asked him this exact question. You know, you've been in law enforcement, border enforcement for an entire career. You were given a medal by Barack Obama because you were doing such a good job. At what point did you notice this shift between Democrats who were ostensibly for law and order to now where they are backing this foreign-funded insurgency in Minnesota? And he said that he identified what Smug was talking about, and also said that when Trump came into office, Democrats were just like, we're going to oppose absolutely everything Trump does, no matter what it means for this country, because we think that's good politics for us. Obviously, they learned in 2024 it wasn't such good politics for them. But their party has gone off an absolute cliff. I mean, under what circumstances would you align with foreign billionaires who are pumping money into ruining this country? I think that the future for their party is is very, very dicey. And we'll see what happens in this midterm. But, I mean, beyond that, Americans want a safe country. We want a safe communities. And allowing these criminal illegals to just flood the streets, that is not consistent with that. Let me just make one more point, Megyn, because you have to ask yourself, why is ICE there in the first place? Why is federal law enforcement there in the first place? They're there because Minneapolis released 460 criminal illegal aliens in the last year, okay? The city of Minneapolis opened the jail doors and just released them back into the community. There are another 1,360 criminal illegal aliens sitting in jail, and the federal enforcement just wants to remove them from the country rather than allow them to go back into our communities. So they have an actual legitimate reason for being there, but the left will never tell you that.
They won't, because Minneapolis is a sanctuary city, and Minnesota, though not officially a sanctuary state, it is a sanctuary state. And they don't cooperate with ICE the way they should and are required to under federal law, but they don't. They don't call ICE, especially for the city and the county jails. Bill Melugin was making this point on X yesterday, that Tim Walz is saying that they do that is lying. While some of the state level will, the city and the county jails will not. Right. If they've got an illegal in there on whom there is a federal ICE detainer, they will not call ICE and they will not cooperate with ICE. That's what a sanctuary city refuses to do, among other things.
Right.
I want to stay with these preening millionaires who have no idea. They're like it's amazing how they come out. Look at Glenn Close. Look at this nutcase. I mean, she's played nutcases in a few films, and she's an excellent actress. Now I realize maybe she's not that great. Maybe it's just method. Maybe it's just her. You know, it's like you ask me to go on some show and act like a news anchor. Yeah, it'd be pretty easy for me. I'll just be myself. I think that's Glenn Close. Here she is.
So we've watched with the rest of the world our democracy being systematically disemboweled and torn apart, along with the institutions which in the near past, though never perfect, have stabilized our society and supported the American people. I am outraged and sickened by what is happening under the Trump regime. The cruelty, inhumanity, and arrogance, the voracious corruption, the cowardice, the sickening hypocrisy, the blatant manipulation of facts, and now the cold-blooded murder of American citizens.
Oh, my God. Okay. She played a lawyer in Jagged Edge named Teddy, and she was very good. Glenn, it doesn't actually make you a lawyer. Just to steal a line from Working Girl, doesn't make me Badada. Never will. It doesn't make you a lawyer. This is not murder, you absolute idiot. Hello, Corinne Jean-Pierre in a blonde or gray wig. She can't get through a 1-minute statement without reading it. Why don't you try, what do you call it? Ad-libbing. I think that's what you actresses call ad-libbing. Try to have an independent thought that comes from the heart as opposed to reading down on your fucking laptop, which is so obvious that's what you're doing. You couldn't even fake it well. Do you need cue cards? Is that, if you don't have your cue cards, you can't say something intelligent? I am sick of these multimillionaires pulling this bullshit. That leads me to Whoopi Goldberg, speaking of actresses who don't know how to act.
People on both sides of the aisle are saying the account from Nome and Bovine does not seem to match what they watched with their own two eyes. So the question is,
you're an idiot.
How long can they continue this? They murdered a man. He is standing, he has his phone, and he has a bottle of water. He has his phone and a bottle of water, and they shot him 10 times. What the?
Part of the torture that intelligent people have to endure being on this earth is being surrounded by idiots like that. It's not easy. It's not easy. You think it's like easy. It's a gift to have 2 brain cells. The audience is feeling it with me right now. It's not. It's not a gift. It's actually a curse. Sometimes I'd rather be an idiot. I'd rather be somebody who can sit in that view audience and be like, yeah, he was just standing there with his phone, his water bottle. God, they're so mean. You know, like Like, what's the name of that actress? Yeah, it makes me want a hot dog real bad. What's her name? Jennifer Coolidge. Like, life would be easier if you could be at that level of intellectual functioning. Unfortunately for all of this audience and the gentlemen who are my guests today, we're not there. And so it's incredibly frustrating to have to share our globe with these morons who actually want to go out and spew misinformation like that on a case as important as this, you guys. It's unfair. It's unfair to us.
Yeah, it's unfair to us, Megyn. And I'd also say it sort of feels fake to even debate these people at this point. Yeah. Mm-hmm. You know, when all of these encounters that are happening with ICE start with one of these agitators assaulting officers and obstructing law enforcement, right? But of course, all that is forgotten in the debate of this entire thing. And we're supposed to like study tape like the Zapruder film and decide that these ICE agents are evil. It kind of depresses you because it makes you feel like if she's saying that stuff like that, then there's people that believe that.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. And this is just my own point of view, Megyn. But I mean, honestly, I don't care how many times Glenn Close says she's not going to be ignored. I'm going to choose to continue to ignore her.
Don't you have a bunny to boil somewhere, Glenn?
What happened to that? I mean,
I don't know. Liked you better there.
It's just so profoundly disappointing because there's just not a fundamental commitment to the rule of law as I started. There's just not. It's partisan permission slips one way or another. When you hear what they have to say, you wonder a lot about how those people would have reacted in the 60s in the Deep South, where the federal government had to come in and make sure that little black kids could go to school. But the local environment didn't support it, and they were up in arms. And it's a similar situation in many regards. And then you look at like what it is that this illegal immigrant community has done in Minneapolis in terms of pedophilia, rape, murder, all the people that they're saying that they're picking up now. These are realistic community impact deals that they just want to ignore simply because Donald Trump has made a commitment to remove these people. And like there is historical parallels. I'm not saying the federal government is always right. What I am saying is that if you are a decent human being, you will look at what this election in 2024 was about, and it is about removing these sorts of people, removing illegal immigrants who are committing crimes in our communities. And just to cast that away and somehow side with a bunch of protesters who put themselves in harm's way to try to prevent that from happening does reek a little bit of the 1960s, in my view.
I don't know if we have the will or the ability to actually do this, though. Like I was thinking about it over the weekend, and Jesse Kelly, Megyn, Jesse Kelly, he's talked for years about this national divorce, and I feel like we're on the brink of that. I mean, there's some Americans who don't care about safe streets.
Okay, but we're getting custody of the children because the lunatics on the other side.
Yeah, but like,
don't want them exposed to some very bad hombres. Sorry, Duncan, keep going.
ICE is here to remove criminal illegal aliens. They are not riot police, right? Like that's not their job. And so, at some level, if you have governors and you have citizens who are opposed to the rule of law, how do you have a country with these people?
And so here's the thing is I think specifically what we've seen unfold in Minneapolis and in Minnesota is under the command of that corrupt Governor Walz, he's essentially told the police, step back and let the mayhem happen. Because what the left, we just discussed how these people are vapid and they aren't concerned about, well, you've had billions of dollars of fraud. You've had murders committed by illegal aliens. You've had all this crime that's committed by illegal aliens. What the left is fundamentally now operating on is feelings and images. So they want to put out an image of a child standing next to an ICE officer. They don't want to talk about how the father abandoned him and they contacted the mother and the mother has refused to pick up the child.
Yeah, but there's a lot of people. There's a lot of people who just see that headline, or they're on Instagram and they see the child,
implant it into their
and it's implanted in their head. And there's 20% of the population that only goes to that surface level of the thing, and their ultimate goal there is just drive down the polls.
Bingo.
On supporting, strong borders
and it's working.
ICE, and it works.
And so Walz allowed the mayhem specifically, and he ordered people, get out there with the cameras. I want you to film, because he thinks this is all a joke. He knows the left loves this like money train that they have going from all this corruption, where Keith Ellison's gotten money from people who have now been convicted of being part of that Minnesota fraud. So they see this as a money train. He said, get out there, get me some good looking footage. I want to see something that we can put on Instagram, that we can have Hollywood people put out. And now you're starting to see that, okay, we got the footage that we needed.
If you muddy the water enough, your own culpability doesn't come to the fore.
Yeah. And now we have, I don't know if we call it détente, but President Trump talked to Tim Walz yesterday. They agreed to take down the temperature. That President Trump seems to be suggesting if they would just give us the criminals in the jails, we'll leave. That's not right. I'm sorry, but that's incomplete. That's actually not all that we want. If you ask me, the American people favored the removal of, yes, criminal illegals, meaning illegals who have committed additional crimes. But what about the ones who are not sitting in the jail? What about the ones who are still at large? I want them caught. I want them deported. I'm not okay with just getting rid of the ones who are in the jails. And secondly, the vast majority of Americans before this operation started wanted all illegals deported, whether they'd committed a crime or not. And I'm still amongst those people. I want them gone. I don't want this. If we stop at just the ones who are in the jail, then this whole operation has worked. Then we have shamed the administration out of doing what it was elected to do. And it will be repeated in other blue cities to keep it limited to just the criminals who have been arrested so far. If that's the actual understanding, and as with anything, it's less than clear, as it's like a true social post from which we're supposed to glean policy, then it's not good enough. I mean, I'm all for taking the temperature down, but not by bending the knee. This is an operation that is just and has majority support, or at least it did, prior to these leftist tactics. And I understand we need to take the temperature down in terms of the polls and the midterms and all of that, but we cannot stop at just the ones who happen to be sitting right now in the county jails in Minneapolis.
Did you see that video, Megyn, from a couple nights ago from that hotel, which had been ransacked by these left-wing lunatics, and there was only one federal officer there bleeding from his head because he'd been hit by a brick or a rock or something, and he was left alone. Yep. And people got footage of when the police had been called, they saw the scene, and they pulled a U-turn and got out of there. These men and women who've been out there are basically besieged. Beyond left for dead, the governor of the state, the mayors, are all encouraging individuals to do everything you can to hurt these people, dox them. They're parts of these signal groups which have been coordinating. And I've seen multiple veterans who served in Afghanistan and Iraq being like, looking at this is exactly how we found the insurgency was operating when we're overseas. And to see it at home is horrific. And so that's what the conditions that these people are under, trying to protect us from these criminals.
Yeah, as a general rule, the left, very dumb. Very dumb. But they figured out a couple of different things. One is this pervasive, profound intolerance for unpleasantness. And if they can create unpleasantness, they can muddy the water on the ultimate objective, no matter if it is if it's rooting out fraud. Remember Elon Musk with Doge? Unpleasantness. You can make that controversial just because it's unpleasant. People are losing their jobs. So we don't actually root out the billions and perhaps trillions in fraud. Immigration. Everybody says that they want all these folks deported, particularly the criminal illegals. Unpleasantness. And all of a sudden then you get some people who are like, I don't know, I'm not sure. And all of a sudden your governing coalition starts to fade because of that critical demographic that we're working with who doesn't like unpleasantness. This is what they seize upon. I mean, I understand it's a little in the weeds, but that is the playbook of the left.
Totally. And I mean, you stole the name Ruthless out of the ether from these terrible leftists who actually are, right? Like, you're actually sweet guys. You're political strategists and you know what you're doing, but like, you're actually good men. These leftists are truly ruthless. They will cut a bitch, man. I mean, they will
they'll bite a finger off.
Yeah. They'll bite a finger off. They'll kill Charlie Kirk they'll celebrate the death while his family's still grieving. No problem. They'll do the finger with the neck.
You know what's been
like
super
that
illuminating,
Lucy,
Megyn, is
what's her name? Garcia.
You go on X and you find these leftists who get like 5,000, 10,000 retweets of being like, boy, ICE has no humanity, the cruelty that they're displaying and the lack of compassion. And you do a search on them for Charlie Kirk. And, I mean, without fail,
psychos.
They're spiking the football and enjoying the murder of an innocent man who tried to just have a dialogue. They're like, why can't we just bring down the temperature and have a discussion about this? Because you guys killed the guy who wanted that.
Or Smug, you'll see them barge into a Sunday service with children crying and terrified, a woman running out, breaking her arm, according to the federal affidavit in support of the arrest warrants. And you'll have someone like Don Lemon saying, that trauma's all part of it. That's part of the First Amendment. The system's working as it should. I mean, there's like I saw
the affidavit. They were telling children to their face that, do you know your parents are Nazis and will burn in hell? They were telling children in church this.
I'm sorry, but this is not a tactic of the right. Like the true ruthlessness is over there on the left. Like, I'm sorry, but where is the right version, the right-wing version of this fucking nutcase named Melinda Cook, who works at VCU, which is a university, a hospital facility down at in Virginia, in Richmond. Listen to this. This is via Libs of TikTok, SOT32.
Sabotage tactic, or at least scare tactic. All the medical providers, grab some syringes with needles on the end. Have them full of saline or succinylcholine, whatever. That will probably be a deterrent. For today's resistance tip, I vote, anybody got any poison ivy, poison oak in their yard? Get some of that up with gloves, obviously. Get it in some water. Get the poison ivy oak water, and I'm gonna put it into a water gun. Aim for faces, hands. Are the single ladies where these ICE guys are going? Get on Tinder, get on Hinge, find these guys. They're around. They're an ICE agent. Bring some X-Lax and put it in their drinks. Get them sick. Nobody's gonna die. Just enough to incapacitate them, get them off the street for the next day. Let's make their lives fucking miserable.
Okay, this is a working nurse filming herself in her scrubs and her surgical mask, who clearly has ongoing access to patients, including Republican patients. For all I know, she could be in the ER when some ICE officer who's performing his duties in Virginia has to go into the ER, and he runs into this woman, and she's going to stick him with succinylcholine, which is, as I understand it, partially paralyzes you. Just to incapacitate him. She's going to, slip a little, what'd she say, like Visine or Lactin, whatever, something to incapacitate you with X-Lax. With diarrhea, when she's supposed to be your caregiver. And this is like, there's something seriously wrong with these nurses. And let's not forget that Alex Pretti was also a nurse out there with his gun, having had another. At the previous confrontation with law enforcement, they didn't say anything about whether he was armed, but he came back the second time armed and loaded. And I don't know what he had planned. Kristi Noem's taking a beating for saying he planned to kill ICE officers, or however she put it. We'll play it. But listen, she may have overstated it. She may not have. What do we know? Why don't we watch the investigation play out? But these nurses are absolutely fucking lunatics. And VCU has now made a statement saying, we prioritize the health and safety of anybody who comes here. We're aware of a series of videos that appear to have been posted by an individual who is confirmed to be an employee of our health system. The content of the videos is highly inappropriate, does not reflect the integrity or values of our health system. VCU police are assisting with this investigation per policy while the investigation is underway. The individual is on administrative leave and will not be in our facilities or interacting with patients. I mean, if it's a he said, she said, if it's did the doctor give the patient the wrong meds, maybe you put the person on leave while you conduct an investigation. It's right there on video. I don't know what they have to investigate. She should be fired within the next hour.
Yeah. And also, you're an attorney. I don't need to tell you the liability that a hospital would open themselves up to if a conservative were to die there. Say, well, I have reason to believe that this healthcare system, VCU, seems to have a bias against conservatives and encourages killing them, because that drug that she recommended using, if it's not administered by an anesthesiologist, it quite often can be fatal. So she's just saying,
Well, let me ask you this, Smug. Let me ask you this. So this woman goes into VCU and she does it. Let's say she does what she's telling everybody else to do, and illegally administers an anesthetic to a perfectly fine patient to incapacitate them physically and or mentally. And that patient dies. because she's not an anesthesiologist and she does it wrong. And then who has responsibility for prosecuting her? Why don't we look up the chain in the Commonwealth of Virginia? Who's the top law enforcement officer there?
Well, that'd be Jay Jones, who encourages the murder of not just Republicans, but their children.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I mean, this is what our poor friends in Virginia, who are right-leaning, and there still are millions of them, are dealing with in this state that has been made blue thanks to the influx of residents from Washington, D.C. who vote blue and a bunch of illegals. There's just a report out this morning about the 2 heavily Hispanic districts in Virginia that put Abigail Spanberger over the top, which has got a bunch of immigrants who are living there from places in Central and South America who didn't want cooperation with ICE, which is one of the first things she did. You guys were talking about this on the Variety program the other day, about how the first thing she did was to end cooperation with ICE.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I think you got to get back to the basics at some level, because I do think that the vast majority of Americans at some level understand that a functioning judicial system is pretty imperative to our way of life. But you've seen in blue places, I mean, we're talking about Minnesota, that's a great example. We saw it in D.C. too, with a bunch of different arrests after the Trump National Guard deal and everything else, where somebody would commit some kind of an assault and a jury would just find them not guilty. We got to get back to the basics on this stuff. If you do not have a functioning court system, or a system or a jury of your peers is basically just a red lot, blue lot lineup, and if I get the vast majority of blue versus red, we have a mistrial or something else, and we can send people on their way. It's problematic. I mean, you're seeing this time after time after time. It became a problem with the whole Alex Soros judge purchase. But now it's beating into a point where you have elected officials who basically, I mean, it's almost a litmus test of whether or not, if you find a Democrat guilty of crimes, well, you're a sellout.
Well, I worry, though, about getting back to basics while in the midst of retreating on the issue. And that's what I worry about with the Trump administration right now, because it's entirely asymmetrical to, I think, the point we've all made here. It's like conservatives, we want to protect our fellow American. These liberals, they want to kill us.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
And so if we have some sort of détente that then turns into a retreat on enforcing the rule of law, they're going to learn the lesson that they can win.
Yeah.
That they can win, that they kick enough mud up on the tires, they complain, they burn down cities, and they get their way. That's what they learned after George Floyd. And if they learn it again, we're never going to get back to basics.
But I don't think that's remotely close to the response the Trump administration is having in Minneapolis. They were like, oh, you don't like the guy in charge of the situation in Minneapolis yesterday? Well, we're bringing John Wayne in tomorrow. Tom Homan is showing up, and he is going to clean these streets like you've never seen before. And he doesn't care about your whining. He is brought there with the job.
Okay, but Ashbrook, let me ask you something. I love Tom Homan. He's literally my favorite administration official. But he's not going to do anything that President Trump doesn't want him to do. So that's the question, because he kind of goes in there right now slightly hobbled, given the mess that's there. And it's no accident that he pulled Kristi Noem and he pulled Bovino, head of the Border Patrol. And then there was initially a couple reports suggesting they were about to be turfed out, that Bovino's now retiring, that Kristi Noem could not be potentially not long for her role, that she had a several-hour meeting with Trump at her request on Monday. She was not happy. She was being pulled. She realized what it would look like. And I don't know whether that's true. I believe it's not true that Kristi Noem's job is in danger. I don't know about Bovino. Now there are some reports that it was more this guy right above him, in between him and Kristi Noem, named Rodney Scott, who may have kind of put out bad information on him because there's some sort of a turf war going on. I don't know. But the point is, it doesn't look great. It certainly doesn't look like Trump is endorsing what Noem and Bovino were doing in Minneapolis. So now Homan goes in. What is he actually going to be empowered to do? That's the question. No more than President Trump wants.
Well, he doesn't do the whiz bang, right? He just makes it happen. There's no photo ops. There's no sort of show of force. It's just a matter of doing your job, which I do think is appropriate in this thing. The other thing that I would just say is look, there are 49 other states. And more importantly, there are a lot of other blue states. Minnesota is not like the epicenter of illegal immigration. Far from it.
Wow, I bet it is. Who would have guessed? The guy from Minnesota is like, let up the gas. It's from the billions and billions of dollars that have been stolen. I don't think sending Tom Homan is enough. I think we should be sending the military. This is a state where the governor has said, I have ordered law enforcement not to cooperate with the government officials and has essentially legalized crime, has said that earlier that he feels he's at war with Trump. I am so pleased that Trump has been able to get Walz to let the police prevent rioters from killing ICE agents. I mean, that's just like the bare minimum. Thank God that is happening.
That was big progress.
No.
That's another headline from last night. Trump and Walz spoke, and Walz has now finally agreed to let the police intervene when ICE officers are under attack or when it's an obvious breaking of the law. And it happened last night where once again they surrounded a hotel that they thought ICE officers, they thought Bovino was at, and behaved lawlessly, and the local cops finally came. You know, we went from the night before with that one federal officer saying, "Where are the local cops?" bleeding out of his nose and his mouth. They weren't there. To the next night, thanks to the Trump-Walz phone call, the local cops showed up. They said, disperse or you're going to be arrested. The ones who dispersed weren't arrested, and the ones who refused were. So that is progress. Here's video of the protests outside of that hotel, which got very rowdy, and thankfully the cops did what they should have been doing. So yes, you're right, Smug. Good. That was a good result out of that phone call. Keep going.
Yeah, no, I made the mistake of trying to make an intellectual point here, which was that in Minnesota, you have
offense taken.
You have a relatively small group of problems here, both from a protester side and from an illegal immigration side. What happens when you go to California? What happens? Do you think that a governor who's running for president against this administration in particular is going to have any different reaction than Tim Walz does? No, of course not. Because there's all of the mayhem, and all of it is political incentive on his front. And there is, I don't know, roughly 75x, maybe 150x the problem on each segment of that state than there is in Minnesota. What happens when you go to, the upper Northeast, Boston? What happens when you go, like literally any blue state? You're going to have this problem. And the point is, if you're interested in trying to solve it, you have to figure out how to scale it. You can't spend 6 weeks in trench warfare here. And I think the administration has done everything that they should be doing. You've encountered the lengths of which the far left is willing to go to try to stop it. I think it's strategically important that Tom Homan and everybody else think about this in terms of how you can actually fulfill the campaign promises of 2024 versus just making like a national debate for 6 weeks over and over and over again. Or the alternative is to stop, which I think is your problem, Duncan.
Yeah.
And I agree with that entirely. Like, there's a mandate here. You got to figure out how to do it. It doesn't mean that you're just going to roll tanks. Like, you've got to figure out how to do it.
I will say one thing about Minnesota that hopefully is unique to Minnesota is it feels like a lot of the elected Democrats have a vested interest in allowing the crime to continue. Mm-hmm. We learned from the New York Times, of all places, that it was Biden's Department of Justice which opened an investigation into Ilhan Omar and how she got all this money all of a sudden. So the kind of pushback that we're seeing from people like Keith Ellison, we've noted on the program, why is it that both of the last two chairmen of the DNC are from Minnesota? Seems like that state's really punching above its weight class unless they've got access to money somehow that the Democrats love. There's a lot that makes Minnesota unique in this situation, but it feels like they're getting so much pushback. The federal officials are at least getting so much pushback from the local Dems because it seems like there's a lot of money there for the Democrats that they count on.
The other Democrats around this country who are as unscrupulous as Tim Walz are watching Tim Walz on the main stage acting for these foreign billionaires who fund Democrat politics, and they want the exact same access to the exact same money so that they can be competitive heading into 2028, whether or not they're going to be the main candidate or whether they're going to be some sort of cabinet official or something. These Democrats are going to compete to be the worst of the worst in the eyes of your average normal person.
Yeah, to me, it's just so disheartening because these are the latest numbers. This is from Department of Homeland Security on January 20th. They say nearly 3 million illegals are out of the country. DHS has removed more than 675,000, and they estimate 2.2 million have self-deported. Okay, they're obviously going to go with the most generous numbers. Let's assume that's true. We have, 17 million to go?
Exactly.
Let's use the lowest numbers. If I say it's 11. Okay, we have 8 million to go. We're just never going to get there at this rate. Stand by on that thought. Quick break. We're right back. Let's talk about All Family Pharmacy. They do what pharmacies are supposed to do, just better. They get people the medications they need fast and at a fair price. When you do not want to wait in line or deal with insurance headaches and you want your medications delivered straight to your home, All Family Pharmacy makes it simple. When everyone around you is getting sick and you want to be prepared instead of reactive, consider All Family Pharmacy. And when your doctor refuses to prescribe medications like ivermectin, even after you've done your research, All Family Pharmacy gives you another option. They have got antibiotics, antivirals, Tamiflu, ivermectin, blood pressure medications, and a lot more. You order online, a licensed doctor reviews your request, and your medications ship straight to your door. It's that simple. Be prepared for the year ahead. Visit allfamilypharmacy.com/Megyn. Use the code Megyn10 to save 10% on your next order. That's allfamilypharmacy.com/Megyn, code Megyn10 to save 10%. Guys, Trump just spoke to this. Got a couple of sound bites for you. First, he speaks to the investigation he would like to see happen.
That Alex Pretti's death was justified?
Well, we're doing a big investigation. I want to see the investigation. I'm going to be watching over it. I want a very honorable and honest investigation. I have to see it myself.
I want an honorable and honest investigation. I have to see it myself. Then he speaks to the status of Kristi Noem, in his view.
I think she's doing a very good job. The border is totally secure. You forget. We had a border that I inherited where millions of people were coming through. Now we have a border where no one is coming through. They come into our country only legally.
And last but not least, he speaks to the death, specifically of Alex Pretti.
Well, I'm looking at that whole situation. I love everybody. I love all of our people. I love his family. And it's a very sad situation.
Okay, so he's doing what he needs to do as president. That we can be a lot more straightforward in podcasting. He's got a different role, which it's great. He's understanding it. Sometimes Trump gets out on a limb. Barack Obama constantly went out on that limb and offered his opinion on things that were extremely divisive, like the race of people involved in a particular altercation. Trump there is being more measured because Minneapolis is a powder keg right now. So that's a good message to come from him. But we'll see. So Tom Homan is now on the ground, and you will see whether that changes the rhetoric. We did hear Tim Walz rein it in a little in his rhetoric, in speaking to reporters after his chat with Trump. I'm not sure whether any of these leftists are actually going to try to rein it in. But I also don't have a lot of trust in the media. What we saw yesterday with the media was, well, I'll just give you one example. Here's a guest on with Jake Tapper on CNN and SOT 5.
We can't do business as usual right now anyway because our city has been invaded by masked gunmen kidnapping family members and friends and neighbors of ours to send them to concentration camps.
Just one note. I'm not here to defend ICE, but I'm not a big fan of people using the term concentration camp to describe detention camps. That has a very specific meaning in terms of...
They take people to
Same.
I understand that, but they take people to Fort Snelling here, which literally was built as a concentration camp, and Alligator Alcatraz, which I think we can all agree is a concentration camp. Not saying they're Dachau. I'm not saying they're putting people in ovens yet, but these are concentration camps.
What? What was that?
It's not going well on CNN.
Imagine being that producer.
Yeah.
Like, before they go live with the shot, and you look at what that cat's wearing. And I mean, you think this segment's going to go well?
Hey, boss, I got a great booking. This guy seems measured.
Not a huge fan of comparing things to the concentration camps. It's kind of it's like a hard no for most of us, making comparisons to Nazi Germany. And the guy's like, no, I get it. Except, well, they're not putting people in ovens yet. You're right. I'll be more measured.
At the same time,
I haven't actually seen ovens yet.
You had the governor of that state be like, there's going to be a book like The Diary of Anne Frank written about this occupation we're under. So, It's not like it's coming from nowhere. Part of what the left does is
we have
to gin them up.
Stand by. Here's Thought 20.
We have got children in Minnesota hiding in their houses, afraid to go outside. Many of us grew up reading that story of Anne Frank. Somebody's going to write that children's story about Minnesota. And there's one person who can end this now.
I mean, first of all, a children's story is like Goodnight Moon, the very hungry caterpillar.
It's not
really
the Diary of Anne Frank.
It's not the Diary of Minnesota illegals either.
I mean...
And secondly, he got rebuked by the Holocaust Museum. I always like the National Holocaust Memorial. Like, when they're rebuking you, it's not ideal. Like when you're just trying to make a point about your kids. By the way, that's a great place to start for ICE. Apparently, Tim Walz knows where all the illegal children are hiding, and he's ready for ICE to deliver the epilogue to their story in Minneapolis. I'm sorry, it's just so ridiculous.
It's insanity. But it's necessary for them to condition their supporters. If he's going to have people out in freezing conditions with their phones out harassing ICE on his behest, he has to make them think you're fighting Nazis. You're brave heroes who are part of the underground to save us from Nazis by using that kind of language.
Yeah,
he knows what he's doing.
I'm really glad, Megyn, you played those clips back to back because I think, what we were talking about in the first segment, right? It's the permission structure that the governor, Tim Walz, and Jacob Fry and the leadership there in Minnesota has provided for people like that lunatic. I mean, that guy looks like a Portlandia character straight out of Central Casting, with the pink knit beanie, wearing it inside. I mean, these people are cartoon characters.
Okay, so now there's more, because if we're going to get into media spin. We have got to talk about what MSNBC did with the image of Alex Pretti. Apparently, they did not think that their hero was hot enough. And so they or someone from whom they got the picture clearly manipulated the photo that is out there of Alex Pretti in his nurse's scrubs to make him look better in the image that Nicole Wallace showed on the air. Now, I'm showing, let's put this up. It's the original.
A little tanner.
And then the after. All right, now, I actually looked very close. I put my reading glasses on and I zoomed in, and you can see actually what they've done. They've darkened his hair. Again, I don't know who did it, but MSNBC used it. They darkened his hair. They filled in his hair a little to make him look slightly less bald. They tanned him up. They whitened his teeth, and they may have straightened one tooth over there on the top left. There was like a snaggle, and it appears to have been gone in the AI version on the right. His nose, which I'm sorry, but you take a man's rather prominent nose and start manipulating it to make it look less like long and out there, and now you're really messing with things. Like, that is just so beyond by a journalist. Like, a filter that makes the guy look tanner, all right, maybe that could happen accidentally. The shortening of a nose, that does not happen accidentally. And his jaw may have been shortened in the picture on the right. I mean, there have been multiple manipulations on this picture.
They like juiced him. Look at his right bicep. I saw this image. Like, they really went to town.
Oh my God, you're right.
Isn't that insane? Think about that.
I didn't even notice that one.
I mean, it's less insane than being horny for Luigi Mangione.
Yeah, no, you're right.
So this is technically an improvement.
That's actually right.
Yeah.
Well, can you listen to the messaging that Nicole Wallace was giving her audience when she used the manipulated image? Listen.
This time it was 37-year-old Alex Pretti, an ICU nurse who cared for veterans. Donald Trump and his cabinet, his administration, are demanding once again that you not believe your eyes and ears.
Kind of thinking that would be a good instinct in this particular instance, but what kind of a cynical mofo is like, he's not hot enough.
Yeah.
We have to make him look hotter if we really want him to be our poster boy. I mean, like, that is effed up. It just shows you how this is all acting. I genuinely believe the Natalie Portman tears are fake. The Glenn Close outrage is fake. It's performative. These people on the streets are there. You mentioned the billionaire. There have been several reports now. The biggest and best was out of Fox News. I think it's Azra Nomani who did it, who reported that it's this guy, an American-born billionaire named Neville Roy Singham, a self-declared Marxist-Leninist living in Shanghai, who's created one of these communist groups, the People's Forum, that is out there. It's a nonprofit that supports these entities like Breakthrough News, which is a left-wing propaganda outfit that's been heavily creating content centered on Minneapolis. They're doing things like sharing videos, publishing graphics, demanding things like abolishing ICE, and on it goes. So, like, we are being actively manipulated from MSNBC down to these shadowy groups that are openly communist. So some guy sitting in Shanghai. It's like that weirdo who's all over X, Ian Miles Chong, who's attacking people like yours truly for my commentary on politics from Malaysia. Fuck you. Get out of fucking Malaysia. Why don't you come here if you want to criticize me? But it's like these shadowy figures who want to control the American dialogue from, like, their huts, God knows where.
Right, and I mean, they're 25,000 square foot huts, Megyn. These are billionaires who want to ruin our country. Ruin our country. They're paying, like this guy that Azra Nomani's great reporter. She's obviously been following this left-wing money chain for a very long time, and she's written extensively about this guy that you mentioned. And, you know, he said that the one tool he has in his tool chest where he can use to beat everybody else is treachery. They want to ruin our country. They're the ones who are tearing us apart at the seams. They're the ones who are like, oh, no, America, you don't have enough problems as it is. We need to import millions of people from third world countries who grew up under different circumstances and who want to take your peaceful neighborhood away from you, military-age men from the other hemisphere who want to cause violence in your streets. And if you try to say anything about it, you're the bad guy. This is an actual operation against us. It's a left-wing funded insurgency from foreign governments. And I mean, I'll let Smug speak to the guys on X who are doing this for money too, because he knows who they are and where they come from. But the reality is we have to open our eyes.
Is it Malaysia?
Well, the thing is that it's all over. One of the things that Elon did that was incredible is now you can click on a person's profile and see where they register, what country they register their account in, and which country that they're accessing the app from. It's incredible because very quickly you saw a lot of people who are trying to tell Americans how America should be run aren't in America. It's incredible. But like to Ashbrook's point, the amount of money coming from overseas billionaires who recognize that the left is a useful tool of useful idiots. We saw in New York City protests pop up where the signs were already printed, the hats are already made and ready to go, is because this is not an organic grassroots thing that you're seeing across the country. The Democrats have realized if they want to be funded, Kamala Harris took a ton of money. Her campaign, her super PACs took a ton of money from these people. Hans-Jörg Wyss, a Swiss national. George Soros. Billionaires are essentially funding the left to try and destroy this country, and we're seeing the effects of it in Minnesota and across the country.
If your goal is to ruin America, you really only have one plot of people to deal with, right? They don't particularly like America to begin with.
Exactly.
And it's a lot easier. That was the great irony of the whole Russiagate investigation, by the way, is that somehow the conservative right was going to be the angle to have other countries pull one over on us. Like what we've seen over the last, 10 years is basically a whole bunch of foreign influence going in on the left to try to do relatively little manipulation in order for them to just get on board for the big win. And if you take a step back, I think you look at your average Republican, your average conservative voter, the vast majority of people, they want to take their kids to soccer practice and softball. They want to make sure that they've got, streets that are navigable, that they don't have crime in their neighborhood. They want to take care of their neighbor. They want to go to church. You want to just like basic American things. And then you look at the left and it's much more instant. And it's much more absurd. And there is no 50,000-foot look. It's much right now. We hate Trump right now and whatever you can do. And so you get like images which you started this conversation about where you just manipulate it just a little bit to get somebody just a little bit more right now angry about a whole bunch of different things. And you can send them off in a million different directions. And I think that is happening in real time in the far left in a way that is so corrosive to our democracy, our republic. I mean, they are becoming, to your point earlier, you got to start asking questions about whether a national divorce is for real, because they don't seem like they're capable of actually getting to the point where we all want the same things.
They're inflaming the national divorce. They're actually inflaming it. They want it to happen. If there was genuine desire for Americans to come together, they would operate very differently. They would reduce the outside inputs and complications, the cultural problems that they're just importing year after year after year until Trump comes into office. They would want us to reconcile the problems that existed before they brought that stuff in here. They don't want reconciliation among Americans who are living in this country today. They want the country to fall. I think there's no other way to look at it. The left, the global left, wants our country to fall apart.
Remember, they were so upset, supposedly, about Russian interference back in 2016. Right. And they made up all these lies, of course, about Trump and Alpha Bank and the server in the basement of the Trump organization. I mean, Don Jr. always makes me laugh when he was like, we couldn't figure out how to order a hamburger. Never mind how to communicate secretly with Russia. Like, in our dreams, we would have figured that one out. But in any event, one thing that Russia did do to some extent back in 2016 was what they always do, which is try to sow some chaos in between Americans, like put up incendiary articles that may or may not be true about something terrible that Hillary did or whatever. Like they love to see us fight with each other. That's been a long time Russian thing. We were supposed to be outraged about that. I thought we hated that. I thought the left really hated that Russian interference or outside interference from another country making Americans fight. What the hell's this? What's happening here? Why are we allowing this? I guess it's different when it's on the left, you see, when it's pushing us to become a communist nation. I guess we're all in favor. And that picture of the guy, of Alex Pretti, like the hotter Alex Pretti, went everywhere. We found it, among other places, at a hockey game. This isn't the NHL, it's like the league just below, with the New York Sirens versus Minnesota Frost. Watch this on the Jumbotron.
Alex Pretti.
It sounds like it didn't go well.
Go home, ice.
Thank you.
These are Minnesota people who support crime.
Okay, and then here's the really outrageous one. We checked back in with Nicole Wallace. Deb, you made this picture for me earlier, and just to see if she had learned her lesson. And would you take a look at what she showed for Alex Pretti the day after the one I just showed you? Look at this. Stand by. Debbie Murphy, where's that picture I sent you? It's coming.
It's being procured.
It's not loading.
Well, there's something we said about technical
we're
stuff,
waiting.
right? Come on, guys.
Okay. You know, Debbie's up into Canada, so things go slower sometimes. They're busy waiting in line for healthcare. They can't do all these things at once. I guess we don't have it. Do we not have it? We'll come back to it. Okay. In any event, it's egregious. They've gone too far. They've really lost themselves. They're really getting egregious with their manipulations, and I'll come back to that, put a pin in that for right now. Just for a moment, I want to go back to the late night hosts because there's a lot. I showed you Jimmy Kimmel, but it's not just him. Here's Stephen Colbert in SOT 10.
Today, more than half of Americans are digging out from a massive winter storm. Freezing temperatures from Texas all the way up to Maine. It's frigid here in New York City. I want to thank everyone here who stood outside in the cold today before you came in. I think we can all agree, ice. Now,
so brave, so courageous, guys. A real inspiration, don't you think?
It is. It's amazing how they've just perverted late night comedy to be just a left wing whatever. I mean, that kind of joke, if it wasn't Stephen Colbert, you'd kind of laugh just because it would be an inverted sort of irony and making fun of the left at some ways. But it's coming from him. It's genuine. Like he really believes that kind of thing. I also saw over the weekend the FCC chairman sort of begin to reinstitute rules that we've long had in this country about if you have candidates on for political office that you're going to have to even out the score. It's long known as like a fairness doctrine type thing, which we operated underneath for decades. And there was some late night carve-outs essentially for newsmaking or public figures or whatever. Jay Leno had this in the early 2000s, but he reinstituted it. And I think this is actually more significant than the Jimmy Kimmel thing that we saw, or anything that they've had to do with late night television up to this point, because they have no way of doing it. If you have to adhere to that kind of rule, you basically need to abandon politics.
Oh.
At some way.
No, you know what you get? You get a show full of Adam Kinzinger, Nicole Wallace. That's their idea of a Republican. Oh, by the way, we have it now. Look what she did the next time she came back to Alex Pretti. Look, now she went too far. I'm sorry, but it's on the nose.
Is that the old
for the listening audience? We showed a picture of Patrick Dempsey.
McDreamy.
McDreamy from Grey's Anatomy. Okay, she didn't really, but I saw it online. It made me laugh. We need a laugh where we can get it.
So good.
Yeah, wait, I want to give you one more Colbert. I mean, this is just like, this is so crazy, you guys. Remember when we used to have Johnny Carson, who would make fun of both sides and make us laugh in our worst moments among each other? We've gone an entirely different way here in SOT 11.
Got to point out, your anti-immigrant thugs are the one killing tax-paying, law-abiding citizens. And Americans won't stand for it because we have read our country's user agreement. We have read our country's user agreement, the Declaration of Independence. Governments derive their just powers from the consent of the governed. Whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it.
Cool. Do it. Go. Secede.
Those right there, those might be the most important words of our founding documents.
All right, here's my question. How are we going to do it? Because, you look at the map, if it were just clear, like all the blue was up in the Northeast and all the red was down in the South and maybe the Midwest, maybe we could work something out. But it's very interspersed. I don't know how we could actually make a realistic go of it if we actually wanted to let him go. Stephen Colbert. I don't know. Maybe we give up, I think we might have to give up California. Why don't they all go there? There's a lot of land. It's pretty. They should like it. They could have Hollywood. I'm not sure. What do we give them?
Maybe they need to learn their lesson again. I think these are a bunch of chicken hawks who have no idea what they're talking about. First off, the user agreement for the United States is the Constitution. It's not the Declaration of Independence. But he doesn't know that. He's just an idiot who reads jokes that are written for him, and they're poor jokes. I remember, like you said earlier, Jay Leno. I have no clue what his political affiliation is.
No clue.
You tune into his show, you get some funny times, and that's what you signed up for. He might have a star who's got a movie coming out, and that's what you get. But this is pathetic. There's a reason that the big discussion around late night is there a place for it anymore? Are Americans just going to watch Netflix instead? No, Americans still like having a good time and having some laughs, but they don't like getting lectured. You cut your ratings in half when you attack half the audience about politics. No one wants to deal with politics. They got home from work, they had dinner with their family, now they're trying to have a couple laughs before they start it again the next day. For him to try to be like, you're a comedian, dude. Why are you out here preaching about, well, Americans didn't sign it. It says this in the Declaration. Dude, if I wanted to listen to Ken Burns, I'd do it on Ken Burns documentary. I'm not going to listen to some idiot attempted comedian lecture me when I'm trying to go to sleep. It's pathetic.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think it's
is he even an attempted comedian anymore? He's not.
He's headed to retirement because he couldn't get any ratings.
It's not comedy.
How long did you think it took the writer's room to come up with fuck ice?
Oh, yeah. Oh, man. Just
really? Whoa.
Yeah.
Hey,
whoa, where'd you
High
find
five.
that one?
Brilliant. Good work, Shane Gillis.
Put it right here.
Yeah.
Okay, wait. I want to go to the politics of it because, of course, that is why Trump and Walz spoke yesterday. It's why Trump just didn't declare the Insurrection Act and send in the military and take Minnesota in hand. it's not going well. I read the poll numbers yesterday from a couple of different outlets, and the independents have completely abandoned Trump on the issue of ICE. Of course, the Democrats are not there at all. He's got Republican support, but not entirely. It's about 80% support him. And here is Harry Enton talking a little bit more about the polling on ICE operations on CNN Monday, SOT 17.
Yeah, I'm not really surprised that President Trump is sending Tom Homan in, because ICE, DHS, Kristi Noem have been a political disaster. Because just take a look here. I mean, ICE's net approval rating during Trump's term. You go back to term number 1. Look, it's pretty even at 0 points. You go to June 2025, right? That was when all that stuff was going on in Los Angeles. They dropped down. Look at this, minus 17 points, way in the basement. But then after Minneapolis, it's even lower, minus 27 points on the net approval rating of ICE. Of course, this all being done under Kristi Noem. So, no, what's going on in Minneapolis is not popular at all.
Mm-hmm. One more. Here he is talking about Kristi Noem, SOT 18.
I mean, just look at her net approval rating. In July of 2025, it was minus 11 points. It's actually gotten more unpopular now at minus 16 points. I looked at every single poll that has been conducted on Kristi Noem's popularity. Every single one, the net approval rating has been negative. ICE is negative. DHS is negative. As I said at the top, Kate, this has been an absolute political disaster for the President of the United States. It's not much of a surprise to me if he wants to push Noem to the side.
So, what does that mean? Because everyone's thinking about the midterms. I mean, this is just depressing, because what they're doing is working. That those loons are driving down the numbers with their media enablers. All Kristi Noem's trying to do is enforce the law. Yes, she got over her skis on the messaging after Alex Pretti, and she went too far. I mean, honestly, she did it, I'm sure, out of an effort to help the Border Patrol agents. She was almost certainly told by one or more of them that something like that happened. I doubt she just made it up out of thin air. I don't know. But, okay, she's going to be the sacrificial lamb in some way. She got pulled. Bovino, he got pulled. Pulled but not fired, which is good. In any event, okay, great. So where does this take us politically? Because I just don't know. I don't think those people, those independents are like, okay, I will vote for Trump now, or I will vote Republican in the midterms.
Yeah, I mean, this is what we talked about, right? I mean, the easiest thing you can do as a president of the United States is nothing. Absolutely nothing. If you feel like there is a necessity for profound change, don't do it at all, because the uncomfortability caucus doesn't appreciate that. But it turns out when you want to deport 15 million people who got here illegally under Joe Biden, it's tough. It's difficult. And the left puts up a resistance that makes things incredibly uncomfortable. And you just need to be prepared for it. And, like, I don't give a shit what the cabinet secretary's approval rating is. Like, nobody really, that is what it is. It does have downstream effects on Republican candidates, undoubtedly, and you're seeing some of that play out with people asking questions and wanting some oversight and all of that being said. But the Republican Party needs to just wrap its mind around, if you say you're going to do something, it's not going to be easy. And on the back end of it, everybody's not going to be like, oh, congratulations, you did it. There's a cottage industry that is entirely built, foreign funding, everything else, to try to destroy any progress that you make. And that's just what you know when you get into politics. Like, that is just the reality that we've dealt with.
Because, for those moderate or independent voters in the mushy middle of our electorate, they're generally conservative, but they're specifically liberal. And what I mean by that is, like, they all agree with Donald Trump's policy, and they voted for him in 2024 that we need a secure border, we need to deport criminal illegal aliens. But specifically liberal is like, oh, well, I saw this picture on Instagram of this girl by this car, and ICE stole her away to a concentration camp. I read that, and that's the only thing I know about ICE.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's the issue, and we're always going to have that issue. But to Holmes's point, like, you can't give up. You got to push through that and do your best. I mean, like, here's a good hypothetical. What's the name of this illegal immigrant that they were trying to arrest, that this guy came in with the gun and started assaulting? Do we know? Because that's where I would start if I was the Trump administration. I'd be like, all right, well, let's reframe this narrative. Instead of, discussing this video of this guy who had the gun and the gun goes off and the guy tragically loses his life. What was he stopping?
What were they doing there?
What were they doing?
Yeah.
And,
Very good point.
And, you know, we need to reframe a lot of these arguments so we put the onus on the left to justify why they're out there in the streets stopping law enforcement.
You're so, like, look at the number of things they've done this on. They're hysterical freakouts that then drive the news that's too, you know, quick to go along with them and drive the poll numbers down. Elon and Doge, just trying to find government waste, fraud, and abuse. That's it. Just trying to find organizations that are a grift. And how many months did we spend on the Democrat freakouts over USAID shutting down and the cuts at the Department of Education, these government bureaucrats who were no longer to be able to cash their checks. And then the debate over the Obamacare subsidies that were necessary in order to fool people into believing that Obamacare was affordable, wasn't as expensive as it was always intended to be, and whether Republicans had an obligation to keep those going, you know, as opposed to letting people feel the pain that Obama inflicted on them, dominated the news for weeks. Now we're actually enforcing the law when it comes to immigration, and we've had meltdowns in LA over trying to do it, in Chicago over trying to do it, and now the ultimate meltdown in Minneapolis, where it had to be the biggest freak out at all because they're trying to distract from a fraud scandal perpetrated by the Somali community there, Ilhan Omar, unbeknownst to us, already under investigation thanks to the Biden DOJ. Because if you would marry your brother to get him into the United States, you would do anything, including possibly illegally line your own pockets. It's just, I'm sick of it. You know, it's like, I feel like the independent lane helped get Trump elected because we were the antidote to the lies the mainstream media was telling. But now that he's actually governing, we don't actually serve as the antidote. People are too primed to listen to all the terrible things about Trump. I don't know if they like buyer's remorse, if like they just want to go back on their original instincts about Trump. It feels good to be like, no, I hated Kamala, but this guy's a douche. You know, what is it? Why are all these people who actually did vote for Trump now suddenly believing the CNNs and the Nicole Wallaces with their fucking lies about ICE?
Well, I think that's part of the thing is that hit dogs holler. So anytime you've seen Trump go after, whether it was with Doge or whether it's here in Minnesota, when he's going after the grift, which so clearly is funding the Democrats, they flip out. Why would someone freak out about Elon hunting down waste, fraud, and abuse in the government? Because you're funded by the waste, fraud, and abuse. Why would someone freak out about these clear-cut cases of fraud in Minnesota? For God's sake, it was called the Leering Center. The Leering Center. Yeah. Of course that's a fraud that's happening. So they freak out because they get their money from that. In LA, they activated the same troops that they have that get foreign funding. If they scream and make enough of a mess and throw enough of a temper tantrum, parents know if you give in to a toddler freaking out, it's going to do it again and again and again. And that's now the playbook of the left. The thing is that voters knew what they were doing in 2024. They were fed up with an open border. They were fed up with criminals walking the streets of America, killing Americans, robbing from Americans, committing fraud. And you have to see the work through. Republicans cannot step back and let any state, Minnesota, California, anyone know that if you make enough of a scene, you know what? We're just going to stop. Because they've gotten away with that. We saw the summer of 2020.
Smug, what should Homan do? What should Homan do in Minnesota?
While the police are cooperating and providing protection to ICE, he should double down, triple down as fast as possible. Flood the zone with as many federal agents as possible. Catch these criminals and get to the bottom of it.
Yeah, accomplish the mandate.
When you've got cover, get the job done as quickly as possible. As many boots on the ground as possible.
Yeah, accomplish the mandate. I mean, I think it's pretty clear what everybody wants to have happen. Get criminal illegals out of your communities. And you can do that. You can also do that without doing a ticker tape parade down Nicollet Avenue. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's the beauty of what it is that Tom Homan brings here. Is he's been doing it for 25 years. He's got medals ringed around his neck from the guy, ironically, who did it the best, Barack Obama, in terms of deportation. But is somebody who's just law and order. And I think they...
But can we talk about that, Holmes? Can we talk about that, what exactly you're saying? Because there have been many reports in right-wing media that there is a division between Kristi Noem and Bovino on the one side and Tom Homan on the other about how these operations ought to be done. It's really Kristi Noem and Corey Lewandowski. That's what the right-wing media is saying. Those two are tight, shall we say, and that they have a disagreement with the Tom Homans of the world about how these operations ought to be conducted. And reportedly, the Noam Lewandowski section doesn't mind the parade down Main Street and also wants to focus on all the illegals. And Homan is more focused on pinpoint strikes, getting rid of just the criminal illegals. But I don't know. Like, I haven't seen the ticker tape parade by Noam and Lewandowski. I've seen them kind of going about trying to arrest as many as they can. They say it's over 70% criminal illegals. And it's the left doing a ticker tape. Like, the left is creating this chaos around wherever they go. So you think they're going to be any different when Tom Homan's people show up there to make their arrests?
Well, you already have to assume that the left is going to do what it is. I mean, part of politics is already understanding what it is that the opposite side is going to do before you get engaged in the first place. I mean, so I'm not faulting Kristi Noem or the DHS at all. Hell, they secured our border when we were all told that couldn't happen without federal legislation, and they got it done really, really quickly. I think the whole point of what Tom Homan is trying to accomplish here and what he has accomplished throughout the course of his career is it's just law and order. When you have cabinet secretaries involved at a very high level or even just below that, you're dealing with it ultimately a political incentive as well. They not only want to get the job done, but they want to take credit for a job being well done. And that introduces an element.
They may want to run for president.
It introduces an element of public opinion into the discussion. Tom Homan does not have that. He doesn't give a shit what you think about him. He's done that his entire career. And that he doesn't even care, doesn't listen to it. Like, if you told me that Tom Homan consumed a single sentence of critique about what it is that he's did, I would be shocked by that.
The man has never Googled himself, ever.
Right, exactly. And that's my point.
Okay. Well, I hope you're right. I do feel like someone who knows what he's doing is 100% now in charge there, and that's a good thing for the United States and all of us. All right, stand by. When we come back, I've got some questions for the guys about Michelle Obama and what the hell she's doing. Stand by. We'll be right back. These are not the meat sticks you grew up with. This is Paleo Valley. All right, now I got to tell you something. These are 100% grass-fed beef from small-scale regenerative American Family Farms beef sticks. And I cannot keep these in my house because my 16-year-old son loves these things. They sent us some to try them out. I haven't been able to have one myself because they are busy getting consumed by my children. So very good sign. I'm going to need to hit Paleo Valley up for more so that I can try it myself. But huge hit with the teenage set. They let you feel good about what you're eating and who you are supporting. In fact, Paleo Valley is one of the few companies that sources 100% of its meat from American farms right here in America. Real ingredients, real results, no preservatives, no gluten, soy, refined sugar, dairy, or GMOs. Whether you are road tripping, working late, hitting the gym, or just need a quick pick-me-up while studying for your tests, these beef sticks are for you. High protein, low guilt, no crash. Keto, paleo, carnivore, whatever your lifestyle, Paleo Valley could work with it, not against it. And the flavors, original, jalapeno, summer sausage, teriyaki, and more. Over 55 million sticks sold, backed by a 60-day money-back guarantee. Support small American farms and regenerative agriculture. With Paleo Valley, you are not just snacking, you are making a statement. Right now, you can get 20% off your first order at paleovalley.com with code Megyn. A new year means new financial goals, like making sure your savings are secure and diversified. Will this be the year you decide to talk to someone from Birch Gold Group? They use an educational approach with a deep understanding of macroeconomics. There are forces pushing the dollar lower and gold higher, which is why they believe every American should own physical gold. So until January 30th, if you're a first-time gold buyer, Birch Gold is offering a rebate of up to $10,000 on qualifying purchases. To claim eligibility and start the process, just text MK to the number 989898. Birch Gold can help you roll an existing IRA or 401k into an IRA in gold, and you are still eligible for a rebate of up to $10,000. Consider making right now your first time to buy gold and take advantage of a rebate up to $10,000 when you buy by January 30th. Text MK to the number 989898. Claim your eligibility today. Again, just text MK to the number 989898. So guys, DOJ has withdrawn its request for an arrest warrant for Don Lemon, along with other protesters who disrupted the church services in St. Paul. That's after a federal judge a magistrate refused to sign off on the warrant. And then they tried to go to his boss, the district judge, who said, I'm not getting involved in this. Just go about it the old-fashioned way. Improve your affidavit trying to establish probable cause and go back to the magistrate judge or go to a grand jury. Those are the two ways you can do it. And then they tried to appeal that judge to the 8th Circuit, and they said, you're not allowed to come up for this kind of appellate relief unless it's an emergency. Get out. So they kicked him out of the 8th Circuit. So then I think they went back down to the district judge, who again is like, I told you the two ways you should get this arrest warrant. And now we believe that their withdrawing of that request for an arrest warrant means that they will almost certainly be seeking grand jury felony indictments under the FACE Act and the Klan Act so that they don't get sabotaged again. Our understanding is that grand jury there is one convening this week, that it could happen any day now. We have a feeling, without knowing for sure, that maybe we're looking towards Thursday for a possible request from the grand jury to indict. But there are questions, you guys, on who exactly will make the request. Do they have U.S. attorneys who are cooperating? Because we have a bench that's not. And will we have grand jurors who will cooperate in acknowledging that there is probable cause that a crime was committed by Don Lemon and these other protesters? It's not just him. There's other protesters as well. And leave the guilty or innocent decision to what we call the petite jury, the jury of 12 that would ultimately hear the case. What's your bet?
Look, I guess I'm happy that this whole thing is moving forward, albeit not as smoothly as we would like. And it goes back to our previous discussion, right, where you've got both jury empanelment, courts, and whatever that have been corrupted by the left to the point where you can't actually see right from wrong any longer. It's all through a political prism. This is so clearly right and wrong. It should be a model. And honestly, if you were left of center, you should believe it's a model too. The idea that you can just storm into a church during a Sunday service and disrupt and try to antagonize people, it's like, look, it's really kind of in the basic founding documents of this country. And if you have any serious consideration for the future of the United States of America, it's one of the things you should keep a close eye on.
Think about it this way. If you four and I stormed an abortion clinic with our mics and a bunch of pro-life protesters who were getting in the face of women seeking abortions, and we were just there with our microphones, and we were making arguments like trauma's part of it, trauma's part of this process, that you have to go through it. That's the way it is under our First Amendment. Yep. And the head of the abortion clinic and a woman next to her said, we want you out. We don't want to talk to you. And we stood there with our mics trying to interview the abortion-seeking women on their route into the OR as they were in tears. Do you think these same leftists and these judges would be saying, you can't charge those 5 because they were just doing journalism?
No, we know they wouldn't, Megyn, because there were old women in this country who were jailed under the Biden administration literally for praying a rosary on a sidewalk somewhere near an abortion clinic. The left will stop at nothing to remove people who they consider inconvenient with their stupid ideas. They will jail every single conservative that they can, and we know it because we've seen it with our own eyes.
Plus, they can probably get a Netflix special out of that whole deal about the courage and truth that they all experience.
It's insane.
I mean, hypocrisy is a feature of the left. You're not allowed to do this. Like, you cannot. Part of why we do this show is because there's no point trying to debate the lunacy of the left. You have to make fun of them because they don't care about hypocrisy in the least. And I think what you did was make a great comparison. A sacred place for a conservative is a place of worship. A sacred place for the left is an abortion clinic. And I think it's important, especially for elected Republican officials, recognize the fact that you can't make any decision on, oh, if we do this, boy, the left is going to use it against us. The left wants us dead. They killed Charlie Kirk. They tried to throw President Trump in jail while he was running for president. There is no step that the left will not take to have total control of power. So when you are in control, you should use whatever means you have to stop the left, to arrest these criminals, and to make an example out of them. What I am really scared of is we've seen from these signal groups in Minneapolis, documents have already been given out of here's how, if you're summoned to a jury to make sure that you can not only yourself, but convince others to let criminals out. They already have their game plan in place.
Yep.
I believe every word of that. On the subject of making fun of the other side, though, that brings me to Michelle Obama.
Oh,
this is a fun one. Save this for the fellas, because she went on the Call Her Daddy sex podcast.
Oh, that's good.
And yeah, she had some thoughts on why she will not, I'm sorry, Ashbrook, be running for president. Here she is in SOT 22.
Whether people really feel yet that they can follow a woman as president. Like, we would just be silly to think that there aren't just some gut kind of, I don't know. Like, we're not even analyzing what those feelings are about because we're trying to pretend like it's all better. And I just think, well, how could it be all better? You know, there are men out there that were not going to vote for a woman. So look at the fact that we've had 2 really qualified female candidates. One who was First Lady, Secretary of State, well-educated.
What happened with her again?
My husband beat her, right? People were more comfortable with him as a newcomer, right? And now we just had the former vice president. You know, we've had qualified women, and they just, you know,
Lord
again,
knows my husband's
they're
not
not
qualified.
perfect, and they don't cross every T and dot every I. There's a falling shortness that is happening that I'd say, look, well, why can't we talk about that? Why are we pretending that didn't just happen?
OMG. You guys.
It's amazing.
Misogyny got my husband elected president is a wild take.
I didn't see that coming. That's fantastic.
Right?
What a lunatic.
Can you believe she raised Hillary?
Oh. Over her husband, I do. Remember, she had an episode of her podcast where she was like, here's why I'm happy I never had a son. I would never want a Barack Obama Jr. in this world. Like,
yes.
Like, I can't believe these lunatics elected him.
She did, of course, because this is a Michelle Obama interview, of course she had yet another negative comment about her marriage, SOT 25. Here it is.
And even in my marriage now, you know, you go through the period of, I want him to be different. I want him to do this differently. I've grown to know I don't have control over him, just like he doesn't have control over me. So let me do my work and let him do our work. And together we come together as whole people. I go to therapy. We've been in couples therapy. I believe in the practice of having those conversations with objective people who help you piece through that stuff. And it's a constant, it's constant work.
I've got so many things that are going to get me in trouble. I feel like, do you guys have anything here?
I'll get us all in trouble. I'm going to get us all in trouble.
Go for it.
You will see
the floor is yours, Duncan.
You will see the feminism leave a woman's body when you get 8 inches of ice outside of your home over the course of 48 hours. Talking about my work and our work. You know what my work was? Shoveling our asses out of this hellhole over the last 72 hours.
My work, our work.
Yeah.
It's 100% true. Here we've got in that answer, everyone goes through the period of like, I want to change my spouse. No, they don't. Actually, they don't all go through that. And then I'm in therapy, and we've also done couples therapy, and marriage is constant work. Okay, I can't relate to one word of that. I have to be honest. Marriage, if you marry the right person, is not constant work. It's actually fun and supportive and enriches your life. And you don't need couples therapy as a matter of course, and you're not sitting around thinking, how can I change him? How can I change him? That's a you thing, Michelle.
You know what's so sad is that, you know, former presidents and their families used to have dignity.
Oh, yeah.
In this country. And like, look, I think we're all well aware there are a lot of people that have a lot of trouble with marriages and families, and it is a constant struggle for a whole bunch of different people. But it's never a topic of conversation publicly. until you become the former kind of president who understands that your opinion, your injection of opinion, you're trying to take down anything that ideologically you don't agree with, is a place for you to weigh in and try to screw everything up for everybody else.
It's constant. All she ever does is talk about how unhappy she is.
So it's fair game, right? I mean, I'd look at that and be like, I don't know, it seems like it's a couple that's struggling with some things, and that's fine, but you can't look at it like that when they show up on a Sunday and they're like, all good people, the attack of democracy is happening in Minnesota and you need to like rebel against it. And they're creating this entire problem for the rest of the country.
Like, well, what does your therapist say? Right? Walk us through it, Barack. What is I mean, like, maybe it's just a question of being more open and honest. I want to give you one more if I can squeeze it in. Here she is. She's upset about, well, you'll hear it, SOT 23.
But as my popularity rose, I was being covered more, right?
That's an
and so
incredible
the
way
press
to start.
enters the scene, and there are now reports, right? And the first thing, after all this great conversation and connection, the top of the article would be, she was wearing, not my education, not my... not my professional career.
Elected enough.
But it started with appearance.
It wasn't actually that
And
notable.
it got worse as we got better. But it was always interesting. People would be like, well, how do you know what to do in this role? And to me, it was clear that, oh my God, you don't know anything about what I did before I came here. Oh, you guys, all of that just disappeared in the course of this whole election. And you now see me as just Barack Obama's wife. So that made me say,
right.
what?
We don't give a shit about you.
My shoes become the most important thing about me, right?
You're not the president. No one cares.
She's never been
She kept
elected to
going and
anything.
posing on the cover of Vogue, and then she's upset. People talk about her outfits. This woman, she'll complain about anything. Anything, you guys.
She can get a house in Nantucket and a Netflix deal, and she still says, I'm the victim here. Is incredible. Does Barack Obama not have any guy friends? They're like, your wife was on Call Her Daddy saying you go to couples therapy and you suck. Any thoughts on this, bro?
Yeah, seriously. I can't with this woman. She's mad that they asked about her fashion. She's out there promoting a fashion book now. If you're so upset about that, where's your book about your time as a lawyer?
Incredible point.
Why don't you tell us more about all the cases you litigated? Oh, wait, you didn't accomplish shit, which is why nobody's talking about it. Okay, I got to leave it at that. I love you guys.
You're
it's
the
great
best.
to see
Thank
you.
you, Megan.
You are. See you soon.